headlines, conversations, everyone in the marketplace, in the news and the media is talking about inventory's low, not much going on, things are happening, properties are selling, things are moving, lots of good stuff. From a year ago today to today, has this market changed or what?
Yes.
Changed big time, hasn't it?
Yes.
Year ago, March, this time a year ago, wasn't sure where the market was going to go. They were talking about 2013 being a better year, but it was going to be 2014 was going to be the best year, et cetera, et cetera. Well, just about the end of February, 1st of March, is when the inventory, in fact, as a company, we had a good January last year and a decent February compared to years past. Not spectacular, but good. But certainly not what transformed over the balance of the year in terms of inventory shrinking, properties, less properties on the marketplace, multiple offer situations, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to take some time right now. We've talked about it in different meetings and different situations, but what I want to get is the point across on four ideas that I think you need to be working on, refining, getting better at over the next few months. And in fact, I don't even think you have a few months. I think you need to start, if you're not doing some of this stuff now, you need to start today. And you need to ramp up faster. Here's what, you've got to get this in your head, and I'd like you, for the next few minutes of this meeting, kind of get. Don't argue with me in your mind. You all do. You know, he's not talking to me, he's not correct, it's not accurate. Let me share something with you. I've been more right than wrong over the last 8 years. More right than wrong. A lot of you have done really well. Some of you that are still fighting me aren't doing quite as well. So I'm going to ask you, certainly for the next few minutes, don't fight me on these conversations. Accept it as truth, and let's move forward. Okay, fair enough? Yes or no?
Yes.
All right, good. First thing. Don't worry about the price so much today. We really don't know what the price and the property are going to sell for. Every single day, every day, we are surprised at what the properties are selling for. So for the time being, stop fighting with your sellers on these prices and demonstrate to them the other things that you're going to do to help get them done. There are 3 things the seller wants in a transaction. Number 1, highest price possible. In that market, highest price possible. Not the highest price, but highest price possible for the market. Number 2, in the least amount of time or their time frame. Okay? And number 3, with the least amount of aggravation and legal complications. That's what the seller wants. Provide it to them. Show them how you do it. Work with them on that transaction so that they will continue to do business with you. Everybody got it? Okay? I'm telling you, don't stop fighting me on these prices. I get phone calls from agents every single day talking to me about, well, we didn't list because they didn't exactly want to agree with my price. Stop it. I'll tell you the same thing I told them in Irvine last week. You don't want to list the house, I will. You don't like their price, give it to me. I'll take the listing. Stop it. You get that? Mm-hmm. Have I made my point yet? Mm-hmm. Good. Number 2. How many of you have a home phone that works? Okay? All right. And when the home phone rings, who's usually on the other end of the phone? How much? What? telemarketer, a salesman, okay? Is that right? So what happens is, now let me ask you a question. By a show of hands, how many of you don't have a home phone at home now? Wow. A third of the room. So that means a third of you have decided to only use your cell phone and not have a home phone. Now that wasn't the case 8 or 9 years ago. Almost everyone would have had it. You would have never thought not to have a home phone. Today, a third of this room, and when I ask the same question, that's typically the number I get. About 30% of the people don't have a home phone number. My belief is over the next 5 years, most of us won't have a home phone number at home. There's no reason to have that $25, $30, $35, $40 a month charge. There's no reason for it. Well, you've got the cell phone, and the cell phone is basically attached to your ear or your hand. Okay? How many of you go to sleep at night with the cell phone next to your bed? Come on. Everybody's charging their cell phone next to their bed. You have a charger. Everybody does. You have a charger in your car. You have a charger next to your bed. And you have a charger someplace else in the house, the kitchen or somewhere, where if you're in the living room or something like that, where you plug the phone in. It's households, that's the way they are. You want to be a builder?
At 7 o'clock in the morning.
And I call you at 7 o'clock in the morning. And all of you pick up, right? So, I believe, like I said, in the next 5 years, that most people are not going to have a phone number. So here's a question. How will you get in touch with the new clients? Well, knocking on the doors is one way. Emails is another way, but you don't have the emails. In other words, most of our business, back up, is the business you do, generally speaking, over the last year or two, has it been more people you know or more people you don't know? More people you don't know. Which is bigger? The people you know, bigger group, people you know or people you don't know?
Don't know.
Don't know is a bigger group, right? And if you want to increase your business, you need to go find the people you don't know. If you don't know them, you don't generally have their cell phone number, and you don't generally have their email address, right? Say yes.
Yes.
What are you going to do? 5 years. We already all agree that most of the phone numbers, most people aren't going to have a home phone number, and they're not going to be in the systems that way. And if you have a cell phone, I have a cell phone number. You know, I live in Los Angeles, I live in Orange County, and my cell phone number is Riverside. So what are you going to do? Telemarket Riverside looking for me in LA? I don't think so. You get what I'm saying? Interesting problem. Interesting problem. What are you going to do about it? You're right, I have an idea. So what I'm saying, what I think, is that if you're not building a database of numbers now, how are you going to build a database later? If we all say that this is going to happen tomorrow, we have to think in terms of what it's going to do today. Let's anticipate the business. That's what, if you pay me for anything, you pay me to help you to anticipate what the next moves are going to be. In many cases, I've helped a lot of you navigate through this whole thing right now. You know, there's a lot of REO guys and gals that are starving to death right now. Absolutely starving to death. But I didn't want you going down that road. And fortunately, a lot of you didn't go down that road and are doing really well because of it. And the others, they're having some big problems, some serious issues. So, how are you going to build the database? What are you going to do? I wrote down here, you're going to talk to more people. Write it down. You're going to talk to more people. Because we are in the talk to people business. We are in the talk to people business. So we've got to be talking to more people and more often, and we have to start doing more of it now. So I wrote down some ways to approach him. When you give information, you usually get information. Will you guys agree? Yes. Now, if I go up to you and I say, what's your cell phone number, and I haven't prepped it, the odds of my getting your cell phone number are pretty slim. But if I prepped it, and I said to you, here's some information, here's some ideas, I'd like to share some more things as they come up from time to time. Can I get your email address and your cell phone number? You're more apt to give it. So you need to do more of that right now, a lot more of it. So we talk about you going out and previewing properties. You have to continue to do that. You need to know what's going on in the marketplace. Just because properties are selling very fast, you just need to work faster, okay? Because the properties are still going to be comps for you later on. You better get off your tush and go out and preview these properties. If they're selling in a week, you better get there and find out what they look like. Because if you're going to go on a listing presentation later on, and you're going to talk intelligently to a client, you had better know what that property down the street looked like before it's sold, so that you can talk intelligently and you can communicate at a higher level, number one. So number two is old expires. We talk about going to see old expires or expires at the door. So when you go to the door and you talk to the old expires, so on the previews, you're going to door knock 7 houses around it. On the old expires, you're going to go see 5 of them and door knock 7 around it. And everyone you talk to and you give the hot market script to and you tell them what great things are going on in the marketplace, you're going to ask them for their email address. Write this down. Ask for email address first. Give information, then ask for email address. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I don't know if you knew this or not, but in Walnut last month, there were 67 houses that actually closed escrow. And the really good news is 22 of those sold at or above list price. Did you know that was going on in Walnut? Oh, I had no idea. I thought the market was terrible. Exactly. Well, from time to time, I'd like to give you some information. So would you mind giving me your email address so that I can email it to you? Would that work for you? Oh, okay, fine. You get the email address. And then without looking them in the eye, you're still looking at the paper writing, ask them for their cell phone number. You'll almost always get the email address when you ask for it, because people are not guarding that as much. You'll almost never get the cell phone number if you ask for it first. But if they're starting to give information, what will they tend to do? Continue to give information. Get it? Get, give, get, give, get, give. Then what I want you to do is I want you to create a database. Now, this is not your past client and sphere database. This is a just name, address, phone number database. Call it your email only database. And every phone number you get, every email address you get, you work on getting their name. Even if you only have a first name for them, get it in there with their address, put it into this database, and start keeping this. Most people will keep their email addresses, and most people will keep their cell phone numbers. You get this? And go pick up 30 or 40 of these a day for the next 5 years. Did you get this? So now we have a reason to preview and door knock, and we have a reason to go out and work old expireds, because that's a possibility of getting business. The third thing that we need to do, we've talked about this 2 or 3 times in the last couple weeks, and that is, have prices over the last 2 years gone up or gone down? Right. And do most real estate agents follow up at a good level, high level with their clients, or do they not? They don't. Okay. So here's the theory. In the last 24 months, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people in our marketplaces that have bought a piece of property that are now worth more. And their agent isn't telling them that. That's my hypothesis. True or false? True. Your job? Go tell them. Your job is to go tell them. What a great conversation when you get to walk up to a person that bought a home in the last 24 months and say, wow, congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. They say, whoa, how come? Well, according to my paperwork here, you bought your house 18 months ago, you paid $280,000 for it. And according to this quick CMA I did, your house is now worth about $350,000, and you hand them the CMA and you congratulate them. Do they like you or not like you? They love you. They love you. What a great conversation. Tell me more about the market. Whether you sold them the house or you didn't, they adore you. Go tell them. And then, of course, ask them what? Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, when do you plan on moving? Or who do you know that might be interested in taking advantage of this area? Or, from time to time, I'd like to email you some information. What's your email address and your cell phone number? You guys get this? Get what's going on here? So, those are the first two things that I wanted to talk about. Number one was the price, and number two was we've got to build a database. So let's talk about number three. Write down number three. Last week we talked about the start that stops us. The start that stops us. The start that stops us. What I wrote down here, it's called call reluctance. It's called door knocking reluctance. How many times are you prepared? You want to go out, you want to hit the doors, you want to start on the phones, you reach for the phone, and the phone melts in your hand. It just melts. It's the weirdest thing. This solid plastic just goes to putty. Or worse, you go to reach for it, and you see an email out of the corner of your eye, and you touch the mouse, and you read the message. Okay, let's see. I got to pick up bananas and milk on my way home. Okay, let me make a note of that. Let me write that down. Okay, a couple minutes later goes by. You reach for the telephone again, and somebody moved the phone. It's not there. It was probably the person that came by and asked you if you want to go to lunch. So how many times do you get started, to get going, to get moving, and the phone is not there? Or worse, you set up a time to go door knocking with somebody, and that person's running late, or you're running late, and you don't get out the door at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's now 9:30 or 10 o'clock. You know what? Susie called. She says she's on her way. I'll just wait 10 minutes here in the office. But while I'm waiting, why don't I follow up on this escrow? Why don't I follow up with this lender? Why don't I, whatever it is in your mind, then you start to make a few phone calls. When you start to make a few phone calls in the morning, then you get the information from escrow that the lender didn't do this, or escrow didn't do that, or the title didn't do this, or your buyer or the seller didn't do that, or the other agent didn't do what they were supposed to do. So where does your head now go? It goes to fix the transaction, not to do the prospecting. Got it? We're horrible at that stuff. We've got to stop doing it. We have call reluctance. So we talked about the start that stops us. How easy are you, or let me rephrase this. How hard are you to start? Write that down. How hard are you to start? How hard are you to start? Anything. Exercise. Clean the garage. How hard are you to start? Prospecting. How hard are you to start? And the next question is, how easy are you to stop? How hard are you to start? How easy are you to stop? You're in it, but you get distracted. Whoa! You know, somebody walks by and look, we do this all the time. Somebody texts you, emails you, calls you, comes by your desk, and says, hey, let's have lunch today. Hey, let's role play together. Hey, let's do something. It just stops everything that you're doing. Don't do this. So I wrote down here, that's the second item. That's the third item. The fourth item is, remember, success in sales is in the follow-through. We talked about that earlier. Success in sales in the follow-through. There's an old saying, don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle. How many times have we been working on something only to then give up, and we were only inches away from doing it. There's story after story after story about people that were drilling oil wells or working on digging gold mines years and years ago, where they were with oil strikes were within feet of multi-billion-dollar reserves of oil, and the guy or the gal gave up. They were within feet of striking a vein of gold up in the northwest, in the north of California. Feet. And they quit. How close are you to your next deal? How close are you to your next listing? How many times do we hear, Bill and Frank and Diane and myself, about when you're door knocking and it was the last door and you weren't going to go to it, but you heard me in your ear. And you said, oh, darn him, I'm going to go to it anyway. I know he's wrong, but I'm going to hit that last door. And that last door was a $400,000 listing. How many times do I hear that week in and week out, month in and month out? Don't do that to yourself. I wrote down here, most of us are so concerned with being a pest that we err on the side of not being persistent enough. We're so concerned about being a pest that we screw it up the other way. It's been my experience that it takes anywhere from 4 to 10 follow-up attempts. 4 to 10 follow-up attempts before we're going to get the deal. Not the one time where we get the knee-jerk no. You know, where you walk into the clothing store. Ladies, guys, you've done this. I did this last night. It was in the store. Salesman came up to us. How can I help you? Now, we're there to buy. We are buyers. We were looking for something that Debbie needed to get. She's a buyer. It wasn't even a price issue. I need to get this outfit for this thing. I got to take care of it. The lady came up. She says, how can I help you? What did we say? We're just looking. She hovered a little bit. We looked this rack and that rack and this rack and that rack and hovered a little bit. And she came back in for close number 2. So is there anything I can help you with? Can I help you get a size? Something like that? No, we're just looking. Close number 2. Fortunately, this lady did not give up. Maybe we're the only people in the store, I don't know. And we found something, and she kept hovering, and she actually followed us. Typically, these women in these department stores are kind of department, they stay in a certain area. It's not department, certainly a certain area. This lady followed us. She smelled something here. But she kept closing. She kept closing. She says, well, I see you're looking at this. Have you considered that? Well, no, I don't think that's what we're looking for. And then we start asking buying questions. Well, really, we're looking for this. Do you have that? And then one thing led to another, and she took us over to a rack that it worked out. 4 to 10 follow-through questions or approaches in every single case. Some work, some don't. But we would have probably found that rack, and we would have found it later, and we would have probably bought it, and we would have bought it from another salesperson at the other end of the store. Because there were, as you move through the store, there are other salespeople. Does this make sense? Yeah. See, our buyers are buying, our sellers are selling. They're just doing business with other agents because you had talked with them but gave up. Think about that. They bought and sold, but they did it with somebody else. That somebody else got that paycheck. I wrote down here, many times prospects don't get right back to us simply because they're busy, which is the world today. That's why we need cell phones, and that's why we need email addresses. And that's why you have to keep in touch with people. I'm buying a car. I'm looking for a car. I have yet to find a salesman who's going to sell me the car. Why? Nobody follows up. Nobody even says that the people that I say, I'm looking to buy a car, they don't even follow and say they're going to get back to me. Don't get back to me. With a piece of important information, they don't call me back. What's that about? Are they so busy? See, and here's what happens. Maybe they are. And this is why I got to warn all of you right now. And lenders need to hear this too. Because you can get real crazy busy with refi business. We can get real crazy busy with running buyers around. But then when the market stops this and starts this, we have to have a base of people that we work with, we respond to, and we do business with. Okay? So the car business is doing really well today. Well, 4 years ago, it wasn't doing like that well, was it? So, and we were talking, actually my wife and I were talking about this last night. She says, I couldn't do that business. I couldn't wait there for people to come on the lot. And I said, well, they're doing it all wrong. They're average car salesmen. Because the way to sell cars, like the way to sell houses in volume, is to reach out to people. If you're waiting for it to come, yeah, you might make a living, maybe. It'll be a frustrating living, but you might make it. But to go out and really reach out and develop that past client sphere, the numbers and the phone numbers and the email addresses I was just talking about. Does that make sense to you guys? Yes. Write this down. Always do your best, and life will give you its best. Always do your best, and life will give you its best. I wrote down here, the average professional baseball player makes around $2.6 million a year. Nice money if you can get it, right? The average makes $2.6 million a year. The ball player at the top of the scale makes that much every single month and a half. Whoa! 2.6 million. Well, they just signed a guy today, for 20 million, 22 million, just this week. Football guy. 120, was it? Quarterback for the Ravens. Yeah, 124, 126, something like that. You know, I'm a manager, I'm a broker, I own a company. Oh, let me tell you something. I'd have one hell of a time trying to write that check. Okay? I mean, I couldn't even, I just can't get it. But this guy's making every month and a half about $2.5 million a year. Guaranteed for the next 6 years, I think the deal was. Not bad. The average real estate agent makes between $40,000 and $50,000 a year, while the top agents make that every single month. Think about that. The average making $40,000, $50,000 a year, and the top are making $50,000, $60,000 a month. So I wrote down a question, what's the difference? What's the difference between these people? Is it because greater skill or talent, or is it luck? Skill, talent, luck. What is it? Skill, talent, luck. I wrote down a question. Why does one person making $40,000 a year at their full-time profession and another person in the same business with the same resources and probably the same educational materials earn so much more? I wrote down skill and talent are important, but skill can be developed and talent is cheap. We all know people who have a good gift gab, don't we? We all know people who like people. We all know people who are very comfortable in certain situations and have talent. I wrote down here, the key is applied effort over time. The key is applied